This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.
Welcome back to the Octave Leap podcast for this week's episode called I Am. And because of the title and because it's two blokes having a chat, I decided to dig up an old clip that really summarizes my mood around this whole thing.
I am man!
And although that was staged, I was just trying to be, a bit exaggerated. It does bring up that primal energy that's needed during the days. Right, Danny? Don't you agree with that?
No, I think we should go quietly and meekly into the night and do as we're told.
Yes. You just pour, the wisdom just pours out of you. How did I not think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we just said a minute ago, Dave. It's like one of those situations, right? And I spoke to one of my pals about this a couple of weeks ago when he come to visit. And we were saying, like, you kind of always wonder, we've been brought up on all this Hollywood, these films of war and sort of like heroic like stories and stuff. It's like, who would I be? Would I be that guy? Would I be there? Would I have the guts and the courage to stand by my word? And now we're all finding out. So it's such a beautiful experience, really, because there's no hiding anymore.
Yeah, and most people don't realize out there, but that when they project themselves into the movies, they would actually be the middle manager serving the henchman of the bad guy that cowardly, basically gets killed in a very silly way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect way to put it, They're just standing by while all of the kung fu happens.
Yeah, we all think we're the kung fu hero, whether it's or heroine, and we all think we're going to be that badass. But I mean, when somebody says, can you show me your papers? And when we start, getting all those butterflies inside, I mean, that's really the real test, right? I mean, we're at that point in history again in the cycle.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's funny how it comes back again. They revamp it quite nicely, don't they?
It's for you this time.
I mean, that's the ultimate selling pitch, isn't it? Honestly, you'll love this torture. This torture is just for you, sir. Sir, you're going to really enjoy this tyrannical regime we've got planned for you and your family. Come along, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've basically substituted abusive clergy for abusive men in white lab coats over the last 500 years or so. The last paradigm really didn't work, and we really are breaking free of that. And you see everybody will go into any religion in the world except for Christianity, right? They leave their home, they go out in the world, they'll become, Hindu, they'll become Buddhist, they'll become Taoist, whatever it takes, but just not Christian. Christian is not the cool thing. Because it was the last abusive regime. And it took 500 years, but we figured that out. So maybe in 400 years, people will do anything except science. Who knows?
It's science, yeah. It is the new religion. It can't be questioned. It cannot be questioned.
That's ironic because I mean the whole point of science, and I was an engineer for 12 years, is to actually hypothesize things and then test them. The problem is, I actually remember this. I was an environmental engineer, and the climate report came out in 2007, and I looked into it a little bit deeper. And the head scientist actually said, "This is bogus. This isn't really the data you're looking at isn't really meaningful." But at a political level, like at the level of the sort of the think tanks and the NGOs, they forced them to say it's very likely we're going to have a severe catastrophe and carbon is to blame for everything. I don't even know if I can use these words on the stream. I might be at risk of a shadow banning, but fuck, we're throwing that out the window today. I mean, we're just going to have a chat.
Yeah, and we've really got to literally give up all of that. All of those concerns. And I mean, listen, like Dave, yourself, right? You tried to tag me on an Instagram post earlier for a little bit of promotion for this and found out that I'm on the naughty step.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor in our circles.
It's a badge of honor in our circles. But
let me read you guys what Instagram tried to convince me of, Danny. It said, "Dear Danny can't be mentioned because they have repeatedly posted content that goes against our community guidelines on false content about COVID-19 or vaccines."
It just goes to show you who's in control there, doesn't it? Quite easily. In that sentence, they just handed over all of the investigation is now null and void because it shows you they're protected.
Yeah, and I almost know the exact person that wrote that type of thing. Like there's just an army of them in Silicon Valley. Yeah. They're going into work every day, doing the exact same thing, saying we're free, we're going to change the world. because it's a mind virus. That's basically when you're not yourself, you're not taking control of your own life, and you're susceptible to something else kind of stepping in there and overriding you. And I think that's back in the day when they used to do those, like, trying to get power from the supernatural, and used to do those ceremonies and stuff, and they summoned the demon and it never worked out.
Back in the day, I thought they've been doing that in London yesterday, didn't they?
You're right. I don't keep up on these things anymore. I stopped getting the magazine subscription.
I think we might be coming up to the final edition.
Yeah, I think it's about time, and I think that final edition will be released when people realize, fuck, I don't need to be reading the magazine in the first place. I don't need to go looking there for answers. I just need to basically figure out what I want to do. I mean, I could do the magazine if I wanted to, if I really wanted to, but it's this whole looking, and it's very cliche to say, stop looking outside yourself, look within, but it's can't be more true. I mean, out there's an infinite number, a myriad of distractions pulling us away from that slow, calm, steady voice inside. It's not very loud, right? And that's the thing. It does get loud, but at first it might not be loud with all the chatter of the distractions that are sort of embedded in us. Yeah. And those voices are loud and they're chattery and they're incessant, and that slower voice of our own knowing. And I think that's why a lot of people who are into sovereignty may have started in spirituality. It's because, the quieting of the mind, the meditative aspect, that's very helpful. Yeah, it's very good, just disconnecting from anything. For me, the biggest thing I did was I packed my bags, moved across the world to Australia, and that's sort of where I was able to say, holy shit, I can be whatever I want here. I don't have any of those old pulls back into an old life.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think you find traveling and taking yourself out of your sort of your habitual patterns. You take yourself out of them in a physical sense. Sometimes you find it's easier to break free of the internal patterns, doesn't it? Because you don't, like you say, you don't really have a sort of anyone to sort of help you pull you back into these patterns and stuff. And you're more free and you're more exposed to sort of like getting out there and trying different things. And so I think that traveling is definitely something that helped me for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I know what you're saying about the quietness, and I've been through all that whole spiritual paradigm, and a lot of ayahuasca and a lot of psilocybin and a lot of sort of going into myself and quieting my mind and stuff. But in this day and age, like, I can't help loving the distractions because it's so fucking comical, what is going on in the world. Like, I read the fucking papers, the newspapers, like they're a Viz magazine. They're fucking hilarious. Like, they are so funny. And if you walk our path and you have that sort of, like, I've got such a strong navigation system now that I don't think there's anything really can deter me from where I'm going. So for me, it's not really, it doesn't feel ever damaging to be able to sort of dip in and to laugh at this stuff, and then to make comment on the very entertaining situation in London yesterday, for example. So, I mean, I suppose it's all depends. It's all personal, isn't it, for everyone? Like, 'cause I know some people feel like they get into that whole Dramageddon and the whole fear factor of it all, and it becomes too much for them. But for me, it just really, really seems incredibly comical, and I'm very thankful for the mainstream media for that comedy.
Well, it's true. I mean, there's that. The more you know yourself, I mean, the more grating it is at first to see all that, but then there comes a point where you just know yourself, what you like doing, who your people are, and you look at this thing like it's some sort of a, alien entity, basically. This whole thing that, the majority of the world is caught up in. And you realize that this thing that's going on is a blip on the radar screen of human history. I mean, this is not how humans have evolved. This is a very alien, all the things we do. I mean, I was in a shopping mall today because we had to, get a part for a computer type of thing. So we're walking around a shopping mall and I'm like, man, this place is like a fucking, one of those clown houses at the carnival, basically. It's like the mirrors that distort you and they're all grotesque and the people are grotesque. And you walk by the food court and you just see people, it's like, where are these people otherwise? Do they live in the food court? Is there just food and they just come out of there and they just sit in the food court for 80 years? I don't know.
It should be called the food grotto. It's just oh man, but the thing is, like, I get that, and I do feel that. Like, we've been back to London recently, and we was, had the same sort of scenario, walking around in all the tourism spots and just sort of like looking about and just thinking, wow, what the fuck is going on with this world, But then there's a big part of me that then I feel I get a lot of sadness come over me, because I feel like, these people, they're human beings with, they had so much potential, like we all have, and so to me that's always very grounding for me in that situation. After I've spent a good half an hour taking the piss out of them, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I do feel that sadness for humanity as well,
But the funny thing is that I feel definitely taking the piss out of the thing, but I don't have that sadness because I know in an instant, a person, I've seen it before, where they just soften and they change. And in that instant, it's like, there's the humanness again. It's always there. Yeah. It's always running. It's just that they chose to bought into a distraction, and you kind of have to make a parody out of it until they realize the distraction they bought into is a farce and is, damaging and abusive. And eventually they will, one way or another. Maybe not in this form, but I think it's it might take some sort of mass catastrophe to really wake up a certain segment of the population. It's clear we're not all heading in the same direction.
Yeah,
we can't speak of humanity as one entity.
We've been having like mass catastrophes over and over again. It feels like every week. What's it gonna fucking take?
Dude,
it's like we've got... It's like, will this do it? Will this do it? Nah, a bit more. Like, what's it gonna take?
We're without power 10 hours a day here in South Africa. And the funny thing is because South Africa, I'm not South African, but I've been rubbing shoulders with enough South Africans, but there's a resilience when you're actually given hard conditions, when you're given corrupt leaders that let the infrastructure go to shit, when the power doesn't, do anything. You have water crises every weekend, like you say. There's a resiliency built, and there's jokes that come out, and there's memes and things, and people just get by. And that's, I think, one thing I want to say to people in Europe right now who might be staring at the precipice of a cold winter or electricity shortages is that when it does happen, you adjust. Humans are the most adaptable species on the planet.
Yeah, that's true, Dave. It's a good point, mate. And I think the thing is as well, a lot of people, we're taught, like to sort of be suspicious of each other and threatened by other human beings and stuff, especially for what's gone on recently. But I feel that probably from my own gut feeling is that humanity will really, really unite in the face of real tough adversity, So I think that you'll start to see, like we've just had, we've had a pretty serious fire here, wild forest fire, about a week ago, and it was, like we evacuated our little space, and a few other families on the same mountainside, they did as well. And there was a whole village down the road evacuated. But you started hearing some of these stories about people putting each other up and people making each other food, and there was people bringing water. And like, it just makes me feel like these things bring us closer together, And all that shit, all the division that the mainstream media, which is pretty much the enemy of the people, they're the ones who've sold us all this division. And it's not actually true, because all that stuff just literally, it just dilutes and dissipates in front of your very eyes, all that division. It doesn't matter one iota.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I lived through a major flooding event in Canada in 2014, and the same thing happened. The whole city, the river got flooded, knocked out all sorts of homes, power knocked out, and the people that lived up a little bit higher just started letting everybody in, and they were cooking meals, and they had food trains, and they were donating stuff. I mean, that's 75% of people out there are sort of the canaries of the coal mine. They're the litmus test for where we're at collectively.
Yeah.
So they're just an aggregate of everything happening. So you don't try to wake them up, because they're sort of the indicator of whether we are awake.
Yeah.
How we're doing is 75% of people out there, right? So when crisis hits, it shows, okay, there is humanness left in humanity. The whole thing hasn't devolved into looting and mugging and robbing, basically.
No, but they want you to believe it as. That's the thing.
Yeah, of course.
They want you to believe
it.
As.
Turn on Netflix. How many movies and shows are there about serial killers and death and murderers and crime or dystopian futures? I mean, all the impressions that we're fed seem to lead us to believe that human nature is despicable.
Yeah.
And that, there needs to be something else. And that the cool scientists, always in the movies, the scientists, they might be the bad guys once in a while, but they're usually the ones that come up with the solutions, or the military.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the conditioning right there, isn't it? The Operation Mockingbird. It's the whole idea of it is to frame human psychology to be quite abhorrent and to show that we're actually not a very nice species. But it's the absolute. It's inverted, like everything else in this world right now. It's completely inverted. Human beings by default are absolutely beautiful, full of love and care and patience and humility, and we've only been conditioned otherwise because we're stuck in this fucking matrix, Yeah. And now we're breaking out of it, and we're just starting to realize our fucking potential and what that means in terms of us collaborating in any sense, whether that be in a virtual sense like now, or when we start to, you can feel it, Dave, as well, can't you? We're all connecting with the right people now. Everything's just happening. It's like we don't even have to do anything anymore. It's materializing before our very eyes. So for people before, it would have been maybe, in the pre this situation, maybe there was a little bit of like, you needed to have a bit of a, I'll just take a leap of faith, but you don't even need to now. You can fucking see it. It's physical,
Yeah.
Which is testament. It's testament to us living in our absolute truth all the time. And that is fucking difficult, but it's the right way, and the more we do it, the more we start to, like, I feel all these tests that come at me, and this is very topical for the title of what we're talking about today, is that I feel every test that comes at me is hard. I get this little horrible feeling in my stomach. I don't want to address it because I'm used to sort of, backing down, or like, I don't want to upset the apple cart, and I don't want to, treading on eggshells around people because I don't want to offend anyone. But that time's over. We need to just be living in our absolute truth. And if people are offended, fuck them. Yeah. And if you're going to get bans on Instagram or social media platforms because you're speaking truth, fuck it.
Wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, literally.
Cut it out and put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you could.
Man, where did you get that sick community guidelines violation shirt from? Well, I earned it. You can earn it too if you speak your truth.
So we have to, and like these little things happen all the time in our lives, isn't it? That we're not used to confronting these things, And the more we do that, like each situation, it gives you another layer of armor. It gives you another layer of like power, of your own potential, of your own field. You start to feel it more. You start to realize that you are only in control of this vessel, and that is so powerful. You don't have to worry about what anyone else is thinking or what they're feeling, or if you've upset them. None of that really matters as long as you're living from your truth.
Absolutely. I think it gets confused in the modern day because we look on what's happening online, for instance. People look at that and they see news and they take that in and they get outraged about things they can't control. It's outside of their sphere. But really, when it comes back to community and who's physically in your life, that stuff that you're speaking about becomes absolutely apparent. You just speak your truth. You call a spade. You do what you want to do. You offend if you need to offend because it's, a good situation to offend somebody, and you just move on. Online, you can't control things, right? We can't, it's kind of made that way to keep you engaged with something.
But I think it almost sort of bleeds over into the real world as well, though, because I think they've built this psychology in humans that people are waiting to be offended. They actually want to be offended. They're sitting there on the edge of their seat going, go on, say something I can disagree with. Which is like, it's almost like, again, it's an inversion of like actually being in your truth. It's just sort of like wanting to feel power, but it's like a pseudo power. It's not real because you're not really tapped into what your real fucking identity is. So then you borrow this identity from the fucking mainstream media, and then that builds your opinion, which now you're fucking infuriated about. It's just, it's crazy. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the identity, you know, the identities you're offered, it's like they're all shitty options. You know, it's just like this one sucks, this one sucks, this one sucks, that one really sucks. Yeah, I'm not going to choose any of them. But people think they need to choose. People literally think they need to. Yeah, and when they realize, no, actually, I'm not an ism. I'm not an, you know, istic or whatever. You know, I'm not part of that cult, that tribe. You know, I'm going to define my own tribe, and it's not going to really have a name or identity because it's, you know, it's multi-dimensional in a way. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, it's
fluid.
There's
a lot of things. Yeah, it's fluid. It's rooted in something else other than this completely synthetic bullshit. This whole contrived world. Like, I mean, all of this is so complicated. Have you ever heard the term hyper-normalization? It's a fascinating, it's a big fucking word. But basically,
who's that guy? Who's the guy who made that film about it?
I don't remember. I just heard the name and the definition, and I kind of roll with it.
Yeah, there's a great film about it, hyper-normalization. Yeah,
but it's fascinating because it says as our society gets more and more complicated, and we don't understand things. I mean, you ever see that Joe Rogan skit about, you know, how long if you sent somebody into the woods with a knife, would they come back be able to send an email? You know, we don't know how any of this shit works. And it's becoming increasingly complicated. Your phone breaks. You don't know what to do. You just go get it replaced. Right? We don't understand this world. So what do? Is we go into some weird subculture niche to try to avoid it. And we create a fantasy world instead. Or a simple definition that kind of fits this increasingly complex structure that is like part assertion of a synthetic narrative, and then partially this organic upwelling that's sort of moving through all of us and rippling through and, you know, kind of breaking and bursting out of that synthetic infrastructure.
Yeah. So we're left in this incredibly confused state, which is what a lot of people are now, because like you say, is like we are living in a time that is incredibly complex. Technology is incredibly complex. So I feel like I'm 40 years of age, and I'm sort of like I've been in the cusp of sort of like the old stuff, like Betamax videos and VHS and stuff like that, you know, and Walkmans. And now I'm into this, like all of this cryptocurrency worlds and hard wallets and cold wallets and fucking, like, to me, it's like my head wants to explode a lot of the time. But I feel like a lot of it is it's actually because we kind of been dumbed down as well, you know, because we might have found our way into this sort of situation where we can hold something in our palm that can do pretty much everything in our lives for us now. It's not going to be long before you can send your iPhone out to make a cup of coffee for you and probably take a shit for you the way we're going, you know. And but on the other side of it is that looks incredibly complicated and complex, but we don't know how to do fuck all anymore. We don't know how to build our own houses. We don't know how to become sovereign, how to sort of generate wealth and to be able to hold on to that wealth. We don't know anything about the stuff that really matters, like how to grow food, for example. So we've become really sort of, it's part of the design again to keep us completely and utterly controlled in this, like, wanting to hand it over. We need help all the time. Like you say, your iPhone breaks, you go and get a new iPhone. You know, it's or whatever phone you're using. But it's very much like that, to the point that we can't do anything ourselves anymore. This is now the time where we can start to relearn or unlearn, you know. A lot of this stuff that is just it's took up so much of our brain that we don't, it's not made any room for anything else.
It's interesting, you know, I've really, that hits home, because we're told the people that lived in the past were ignorant, poor, and they couldn't read.
Savages.
Ignorant, poor, and they couldn't read. Savages. But then actually, if you look a little bit deeper, you find out actually before World War II, you know, 50% of people had a backyard garden where they grew food. You know, they could fix things. They could mend their own clothing. You know, now we live in this world where something breaks and nobody knows what the fuck to do. Yeah, there's absolutely no solutions. You know, it's just replace it with something else that's poorly built, so it will break as quickly as possible. So you have to buy a new one.
It's all part of the. It's just completely generating part of the matrix again. It's just fueling it all the time.
Yeah.
And I saw something that really, really tickled me. It was a car. I can't remember what car it was, but it was a very famous car, like a Ford Fiesta or something like that. And it had the user's manual, and in the manual, this was from 1960 something, and in the manual it was like explaining in detail how you take apart your carburetor and put it back together again, give it a clean and put it back together again, which is, to anyone who knows anything about mechanics, is quite a tricky little thing to do, right? Now, fast forward 40 odd years, 60 odd years, wherever we are, the user manual for the same model of car, there's nothing about how to change a carburetor, but it's telling people do not drink the brake fluid.
No matter how brightly colored those Tide Pods are, they do not belong in your mouth.
Yeah. And I thought, like, is that where we are now then? Like, there's a geezer once upon a time, he's taking his carburetor apart, and there's another geezer 60 years later, he's drinking the brake fluid, he's going, ah!
You know, the funny part is, you know, the left behind people, you know, Northern Canada is a great example of this. These communities with like 400 people, and there's about 700 kilometers between each of them. I had to spend some time there, and you know, working with these guys. I was doing environmental surveys back in the day, and these guys could do everything. You know, they had to do everything because they didn't get parts, they didn't get supplies. It was a 400, literally sometimes a 400-kilometer trip to get a part. So they had to be damn sure they had everything to be self-sufficient. So they were their own electricians. They could do home repairs. They could grow food. They could, you know, they had greenhouses because it's too cold to do it otherwise. So they were incredibly resourceful. And why? It wasn't because they're some special breed. It's because the conditions in which they live cause them to do that. And like now, we're living under conditions where if we try to go, you know, I laugh about it. It's like you got fucking the Great Reset, the Great Awakening, you know, this new normal is pretty much Great Reset type of thing. You only got two paths for people. The guy who wants to sit on the sofa watching sports and eating chicken wings can't do that anymore. There's no option for that in the future.
Oh no, it's terrible. I used to fucking love that.
So either he grows chickens and he finds his own entertainment in the, you know, the beautiful night sky, or else, you know, he becomes this cybernetic bioslave. I mean, those are the two options.
Well, that's it. You know, like what you're talking about, these communities, the reason they've become so powerful in their ability to sustain themselves and be self-sufficient is because they're fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, we've been so comfortable for so long. Now we're sort of getting a slap in the face to make ourselves uncomfortable. And this is where real human growth comes from, you know. So again, you know, I know it's difficult. I really know it's a difficult time, but this is such a positive time for human development. It really is, you know. And that is it's something we can all do every day. It doesn't matter where you are. It's not a case of sort of like, I mean, people say to me, oh, it's all right, Danny, you know, you're living up on a mountain. Yeah, I know, but you got legs as well, haven't you? You know? And it doesn't matter where you are. You can all of you can take your power back in yourself, you know, whatever that means. And there is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways. And the only reason we're not taking them is because we either don't have the appetite to find the knowledge, or we're idle, you know.
Absolutely. But like you said earlier in this conversation, you know, it gets so obvious. You know, we go from infinite choices in no time to basically very few choices and a lot of time when situations like this happen. You have more time on your hands, right? I mean, if you can't go to work for whatever reason, or you know, the grocery store doesn't have food, the banks aren't open, oh, I don't have to make that commute anymore. The petrol's too expensive for anyone to drive. There's no traffic.
Oh, that is optimism there, Dave.
Yeah, you know, Operation Polygon, whatever it's called, happens, and there's no internet for a little while. There's blackouts. I mean, you got to read your book and light some candles. I mean, just do it. You know, actually, I'm going to say no internet 10 hours a day, or sorry, no electricity 10 hours a day here has really taught me how to live with a different rhythm out of necessity. You know, this is exactly that situation. It's they do give you a schedule ahead of time so you can slightly plan your day, but it's Africa, so they can change it at the last minute too and not tell you. But you just roll with it. And you just get used to it. It's like there's no power. Oh, there's this beautiful, relaxing feeling because you don't have that buzz of electricity, that 60 hertz buzzing. You know, actually, physiologically, it makes the brain more agitated when electricity is buzzing. When there's no electricity around, the brain can actually shut down into those relaxed states much easier. So when it's gone, it's like, oh, I can think, I can feel again. And what do I do? Well, the weather's nice. It's bright out. I can go jump in the ocean. I can go walk up the mountain. I can go hang out with somebody at the park. We can, use the gas stove to make some water hot, and then we can pour it over some coffee and, do it the old cowboy way.
Yeah. Nice. It's nice, isn't it? It brings a stillness back to us, and we slow down. It's actually I listened to. You probably listened to it yourself. There was a track, one of Jacqueline's tracks last night. It was called a couple of nights ago. The Science of Image 3. I don't know if you caught that.
I have it. I'm a little bit behind on it. I don't always get to these in a timely manner.
But it's very, very much what you're saying. Is that we don't realise it, but we're becoming more and more reliant on these screens and on these phones, and it is having an effect on our energy field, And if we can make sure that we really, really, and again, this is very poignant for the title of this chat, is that is taking back your power. I know that seems like such a ridiculously small thing to do, but just to put your fucking phone down on airplane mode away from you for a day and just fucking sit and figure out what you really feel. And then that stuff starts to come up. I mean, I've said it so many times to people, is that if you go and sit in the woods on your own, right, quietly, a lot of shit's going to come up, right? And you're not going to like it, right? And that's why we distract ourselves, because there's a lot of stuff in us that's suppressed, and it's suppressed because we've been constantly distracted. And that flow of our human emotion, energy in motion, is meant to come through us. It's meant to keep on working through us, and it stops when we're distracted. Listen, I've got 2 4-year-old girls, right, twin girls, and I've got a little boy, but he's too young to watch anything. But we travelled back from Belgium recently. Yeah, now it's a 4-day travel for us, right? Now, Dave, you got a little baby yourself, in you, so you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? But when you got twins, it's another level. So if there's anyone out there who's got twins, then you will really be like, oh yeah, I completely get it. You're sitting there in your straitjacket going, I remember that time. It is right heavy. I mean, I think they're triplets. They must be orphans, all triplets, because their parents must have killed themselves, because you can't have triplets you just can't. It's not possible. All right. So we've got our kids, and they're both very, very empowered. Which we really celebrate. They're very empowered. We're traveling for 4 days in a car from Belgium. And when I say 4 days, we do 5 hours, and then we stay in a hotel and another 5 hours, and so on and so forth. So we got an iPad. Yeah. Now, I don't like them using the iPad too much, but there's times in that car where if you haven't got that iPad, right, you are literally pulling over to the hard shoulder, getting out and just waiting for a fucking big truck to fucking help you.
I'm only laughing so it isn't so dark and morbid.
So the point is that as soon as you see children go onto a screen, and it's very evident in children because they're so fluid, and they're so full of flow, and they're so dynamic, and it's all there, all that fucking beauty is right there bubbling away. And so as soon as you put them on a screen, you see it go,
yeah,
and that is the distraction of that flow. And we're all suffering from it. Every single one of us. It's one of the biggest diseases and viruses of mankind right now. Is our reliance on technology, and in terms of screens and in terms of phones and whatnot. And that is something we can all do. All of us, every day, we can make a little decision just to not pick that up. When we feel, I'm just going to check my notifications, and I'm not gonna. And the more we can try to separate ourselves from that, the more we can really get to know ourselves. And getting to know ourselves is to really embrace our true potential and how powerful we really are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go now. I've had enough of this story.
I've hit my 40-minute limit for the day. It's tricky. I mean, I run an online business, basically. The people in my community are all over the world, right? And so what I aim to do is give them quality screen time. When they're going to use the screen, give them content, that's just basically one source. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to spend time weeding through YouTube and getting all the weird impressions from some of these other channels that are, you don't have to ask them if they've received medical treatment or not of a certain kind. I mean, it's just there. You know what you're going to expect. And I think if people use their time online more intentionally and then enjoy their time offline deeper, they can get the best of both worlds. I see it very much the future being a hybrid thing. There's been a lot of these hippie communities that have really tried hard, but they can't really convince people that we're going back to the, pre-industrial revolution type of living. It's not going to be a cell. I think the intelligence of this planet wants this sort of dynamic mixture of technology and respect. It needs it at this point. I mean, we fucked it up with so much synthetic stuff that it's not just going to heal itself. We need actually to develop regenerative technologies at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right in what you're saying. If we can use that time, and it's almost like you're becoming incredibly anal, you know, to the point where you're sort of saying to yourself, right, this is my schedule. I am going to go, I need to do this today, and that is going to be done online, and I'm going to be doing that on my screen, and that's cool, and I can dedicate this time to that. But as soon as that's gone, bang, that's got to be closed off then, because you've done your thing. You can tick the box, and then you can spend the rest of your time being in a what I would call a real life situation, because this doesn't, even like Dave, I would love to be having this conversation face to face with you. You know, I really would. You know, like to be able to be in a physical presence of someone, to me, it just feels so much more powerful and so much more real. But we have to, you know, this is, you're in you know, the other side, very, very far away from me right now. So this works, you know, this is what we have to do. But it's the other stuff. It's the addiction is the point. Yeah. You know, and I listen, I'll be honest, and I try to be as honest as I can. I've got quite a decent sized audience that really interact with me on my channels and stuff, and I enjoy it. You know, I enjoy conversing with people and having a laugh with people and stuff. But you know, sometimes I feel that like there's been like a few weeks have gone by and I haven't eaten or taken a shit. You know? And I feel that there's it's gone to the place where it's becoming unhealthy. You know, and that's the thing.
I completely understand what I teach cryptocurrency, and one of the things I did a while back is I started day trading. Now that's a bad idea if you don't want to be
bad idea.
Very bad idea. So then I just switched from the 5-minute intervals to the 1-day intervals and did the same thing, and my life worked out a lot better.
Yeah, okay.
You know, in fact, you know, you make bad decisions when you're always plugged in like that. When you know it's you become sort of this creature, this I don't know, like a
golem.
You're like a golem, like a husk of a human in a way.
Yeah, it's true.
The nice part is you go walk around barefoot, you go jump in the water, and sort of all that stuff comes back pretty quickly, which is the nice part.
It does. It does. It's very regenerative. That is true. But I think it's a case of, like you say, it's just having respect for it, isn't it? You know, like they are powerful machines, and it is a powerful infrastructure online. You know, it really is. Mm-hmm. But it's just a case of making sure that we're finding that real nice balance with nature still as well. You know,
absolutely. Because otherwise, what are we doing it for? You know, we can have all the technology in the world, and we saw that with NFTs last year. I mean, it's like, wow, we've created this revolutionary technology, and we're going to make the worst type of art out there. We're just going to create garbage and sell it for millions of dollars because there's no reason. You know, that the fundamental worldview that they live upon is almost nihilistic at that point, because, you know, you can't even detect the subtlety of the magnificence that surrounds us all the time when you don't have any life force energy because it's being sucked through the screen.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I don't know, because I'm not competent to really say, but I get the feeling that it's probably something in that as well. What you're saying is that there is a harness of our energy. You know, it is being taken through these screens, you know, to be used for some, you can imagine, some kind of fucking dark, nefarious means.
The beast computer. We know what you said to Aunt Sally before you deleted it.
Do you know who you sounded like then?
Dr. Claw, right?
Yeah. Next time, Gadget.
Next time, Gadget.
I used to like that.
Yeah.
He wasn't a nonce, was he? Inspector Gadget. Are we going to find out he was a nonce soon?
I'm unfamiliar with the slang.
Oh, the nonce is it means it's an acronym from the British judicial system that says not of normal criminal activity, or not of normal criminal enterprise. Sorry,
not of normal.
Nonce, and it means, I think it means a nonce is a paedophile or a kiddie fiddler or a sex offender. Yeah. So I was just wondering if probably find out in 20 years' time. But, I'm not Inspector Gadget as well. Fucking hell. He was a little bit affectionate over his niece, though, wasn't he? She was in every episode.
I know. We have to bring up everything for questioning. You know, when it says literally everything is up for questioning and ready to go, we have to revisit those early childhood years, the early '80s, and the fond memories we have of those cartoons.
Yeah, mate. It's like such a difficult thing trying to find some, like, you know, because again, like what we're talking about is that, like, I have got an incredible passion for film. You know, it's probably my greatest passion is film. You know, I absolutely love film, and I would not want my children not to ever sort of experience some of the incredible movies that I've watched and been engrossed in, and you know, like such beautiful films, and it's art. You know, it's beautiful pieces of art.
Absolutely.
And so I wouldn't want them to not have that because of, you know, you can't, you're going to the other side and the imbalance kicks in. And it's like, no screens. We're never having any screens or television in our house. But trying to find your children something that is not corrupted to watch is fucking difficult, mate. I'm telling you. You sitting there going,
budget behind it, watch out.
That's Disney. Oh, no, can't watch that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's and even we was
that's when you just say fuck it and you go back and you start watching the Christian shows, right? Like VeggieTales and stuff. It's like, all right, ignore the religious stuff. At least we know this is clean. Oh shit, no, it's not. It's funded by the same people. Damn it.
We've got them. You might know this because I think it's Canadian, but we let them watch Little Bear. Do you know Little Bear? I do not know. No, it's a Canadian cartoon from, I think it's the 70s or 80s or something, but it's very wholesome, you know. It's quite a wholesome little thing. I've watched plenty of episodes to do my due diligence, and I can't find any like cocks hidden away in bushes or, you know, like you would find on a fucking Disney movie, right? Yeah. It's funny because when we went back to London, I said to Han and my missus, I said, let's take them to Hamleys. I don't know if you've ever been to London, but there's an incredible toy store there in Regent Street, and it's got like 5 floors. And to me, like, I grew up and it was like, to go to Hamleys, it was such an amazing thing. So I suppose traditionally and part of my old patterns and stuff, I wanted to sort of like include them in this sort of this day out. So we went to this toy store, and I mean, it was fucking sensory overload on steroids, man. It was so fucking crazy. I was just like, what is going on? Like, I was like, it was like being in a really bad ayahuasca trip. It was really, really horrific. Yeah, the kind you get from the dial shaman, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like they're just like blown away, aren't they? They're running around grabbing everything. Papa, I want this. Papa, look, Papa, cake, Papa. And I'm going like I'm looking at these things and I'm going, no, you can't have that, and you can't have this, you can't have that. And like my partner Hannah, she picked this like it was Peppa Pig. I don't know if you're familiar with Peppa Pig. Yeah, I'm familiar with Peppa Pig. Right, and like she picked it up and it's a lolly for kids, but it looks like a cock. You know. We was just looking at it going like, what is going on? This is so surreal, this world. We need an alternative version. We need Prepper Pig. Prepper Pig. Yeah, teach these kids some useful skills for tomorrow. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you know, how to purify water from any source, even radioactively contaminated water. Yeah, coming to a home near you. Oh man, crazy fucking world, Dave. Yeah, you know what? I really enjoyed it last month when we were chatting because we were really laughing. I think we spoke for about an hour and a half, and 85 minutes of that was laughing. But one of the words that did come out was that what it would be funny to have a Great Awakening hotline. We could just basically like take the piss out of everything. I mean, both sides of the coin need to be poked fun at, right? Of course. The apocalypse hotline, we said, didn't we? The apocalypse hotline, right? It's like the apocalypse hotline. I mean, it's got so much. Hotline, can I help you? Oh, you went digging for the children and you hit a utility bed, and now the city's suing you. Well, I mean, you kind of did it yourself, son. Oh man, but this is the thing, like these things, they are so fucked up they become comical. Yeah, you know, they get to the point where they're so absurd that the only way through it is to laugh about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I did a video on this channel. It went, pseudo viral. And all I did was it was after the World Economic Forum, and I just said what happened at the World Economic Forum. Like I just literally said there with a straight face and just said the things that happened. And people were messaging me like, "This is fucking hilarious. It's comedy." I'm like, I really just have to like read the transcript or like the syllabus or whatever is happening, the things that they're discussing, the itinerary. You just read that aloud with a straight face, and people will be like busting a gut laughing.
Yeah, that's
how funny it's become.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, like if you're being told that you're going to be fucking happy and you're not going to own anything, after they've just sold us for the last fucking God knows how many years, they've been telling us that we need to own our own house and own your own car and own your own business and do this and do that. And now they're saying, no, actually, no, we got a better idea. You give it all to us, right? You own fuck all, and you're going to love it. You know,
our marketing department really fucked up on that one, by the way.
Yeah, I'd love to be in that boardroom.
Turns out the only people interested in owning nothing and being happy were the commies that were just really, really loud. The ones who we gave megaphones to at universities across all the nations of the westernized societies. But unfortunately, everybody else was ignoring them. So the other 99% of people don't want that.
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's the thing to recognize. I mean, what we're presenting with, obviously, everybody you see in these things, they're selected, right? And when you learn that these sort of extreme people that are drinking the Kool-Aid and licking the boots and stuff like that, like they're a very small number of people that are like that. I know this because I interact with a lot of people, and they're like maybe 1% of the people that I interact with. They're just complete cyborg write-offs.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's like again, it's the figures of the mainstream media, and not just the mainstream media. People have to understand as well. Like, if we want to say like the alternative media, which is of course it's been infiltrated as well. There's a lot of people out there who are paid by the government intelligence agencies to act as if they're part of the opposition. And this is something that they're trying to control both sides of the narrative, and all of it. If you want to boil it right down, all it ever is fucking fear. It's all fear. They just want you to feel disempowered, that you are going to be picked up and put into a FEMA camp, and that is going to be the rest of your life because you've been outspoken. I say, fuck that. If the consequence of living by your word and living by your truth, and standing up and being counted at a time when fucking humanity really needs you, means that you're going to spend the rest of your life in a FEMA camp, then fucking bring it on. I'm having the top bunk though, Dave.
I just need to get the token for the second portion. That's all I'm asking for. Especially if it's dessert, I'm down for that. But
you just get a job in the kitchen, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But I think this is the thing: is that like we're actually not. None of this is again just it's an impression that they want to put in our minds, isn't it? Like you spoke of earlier, like all of the movies, they're all about sort of trying to show that everything is on its way out, when it's actually completely the opposite. It's actually on its way in. There's a new world being born here before our very eyes, and it's fucking beautiful. It is absolutely
How many movies
stunning.
Have you seen that show an incredible future, though? Like, I mean, there's none. I saw one actually, and it was made by like it was an independent film. It won like some film award. It wasn't very interesting acting, but it talked about the right things. It talked about the future and these two different worlds in the year 2040, and these people that were sort of living this more rustic, like aligned lifestyle, and these people who are living in the bot control system. One movie out of a billion movies.
Yeah,
the rest of them are just like Hunger Games.
Oh yeah, exactly. But they're trying. I mean, and the thing is that society is starting to represent Hunger Games.
Yeah.
When you've got someone like dear Prince Charles, or King Charles, shall I call him now? King Charles the Third Reich. He is sitting on his throne, this golden throne with all this diamond encrusted stuff all around him, telling everyone that they've got it's going to be a tough time soon for you lot. It's going to be some hardship coming our way. We all got to stick together. We've all got to band together. It's like,
There's going to be some hardship coming your way. My way is going to be more comfortable because I'm going to take your resources and enjoy them all.
Yeah. You know, and this is like it's hard not to talk about it because it's one of the whole world has come to a standstill because of because a certain figure in our societies is one of her 27 clones passed away a couple of days ago.
Right, yeah.
But like again, there's been I've done some videos. I don't know if you've been privy to them, but they're quite controversial, which is my nature. And there's a lot of people who would believe that they are. I don't like the term awake. I think it can be a little bit derogatory, but let's say aware. People who would say that they're aware of what's going on in the world, and yet all of a sudden they're up there dropping bouquets or going to stand 24 hours, 5 hours in line to bless a monarchy that ultimately is everything that is wrong with this world. Yeah. Whether you want to dive into the real dark fucking rabbit holes and find out what these people and these bloodlines are really about, that's a different thing entirely, right? But if you just take monarchy as a whole, what it represents is grandiose wealth. Where that wealth has come from, the rape and pillage of developing countries all around the world that are still suffering because of that.
Yeah.
That is a fact. That's not something we can deny and you can say, oh, yeah, it's a conspiracy theory. That's just a fact.
No, the facts also show that they've funded both sides of the conflict. You live in Africa. I mean, it's very obvious the scars of colonialism here.
Yeah.
I mean, the history of the Congo speaks to that immensely. Or many of the countries here. Yeah.
So if we're going to be honest with ourselves, do we ever want to support that? Like any human being, whether you believe in the real dark stuff that a lot of people talk about and what they are and what they're doing, forget about that. But do we as a normal human being in a normal status quo, do we really want to support that? Do we really want to be celebrating the life of someone who has been the head of that? No, of course not.
That's the
you
opposite
look around
of
the streets.
sovereignty.
Yeah, exactly. You look around the streets of the UK and homelessness has gone through the roof. Drug addiction's gone through the roof. Suicide has gone through the absolute stratosphere. The fucking world is falling apart and we're meant to be celebrating someone who has gone around robbing and thieving to create more wealth for them and their friends. I mean, to me, that is the opposite of wanting to take your self-governance and your sovereignty. So that's something we can all start with.
I have this expression that the things we learn and become more aware about, the beast inside of us also learns and becomes more clever and navigates and shows up in these ways. I mean, I had people rolling out yoga mats beside me and eating organic food and fasting and all this stuff. But the minute that they announced a certain medical intervention, they were lining up at the doctor's office. I mean, I don't get that. to say, oh, yes, because that's how they are going to give me my right to travel. And I said, you coward.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to offend people. And I'm going to be outspoken about that because I didn't get to travel for a long time.
Yeah. And the thing is, Dave, is that we can't beat around the bush. Like I said earlier, is that, the time for sitting on the fence is over. Okay. The time for sitting on the fence is over now. That's not going to work anymore. You can't sit there and just be neutral and hope life's going to pass you by because you're going to get swept along with the shit.
Yeah.
We need to stand up now and we need to say what is really, really affecting us. And to me, people if I say that, for example, I say the word coward, if I say that about people who chose that way because they thought it was going to be an easier life for them, then I get a lot of kickback from that, a lot of blowback saying that, that's judgmental and criticizing people and stuff. And
look, it's not if they thought that was the right thing for them. That's something else. That's not being a coward. They thought they were doing the right thing. But people who basically believe the same thing as us and then go against their inner knowing and compromise themselves, they're basically saying, I give up.
Yeah.
I give up. You're more powerful than me, which is not true, but they're telling themselves that. And therefore, I will abide by your rules and I will go against my own inner knowing. That's going to have major consequences for those people.
Yeah.
There's going to be some tough lessons there. And that's not my doing or my saying. That's just the way that it works.
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty sobering because there's a lot of people out there, that it separated the wheat from the chaff, didn't it? And again, it did it again this week with the whole situation with the royals. is that you really start to get an understanding of who really understands where we are right now, you know, what planet we're on. And there is this incredible, like, it's becoming such an obvious split now, you know. And it's, to me, it's kind of sort of like it is a very special time, because we're seeing it in its physical sense now. It's not just something we could have said, like, you know, we're foreseeing this, and it's very, you know, virtual, or very, you know, it's not real. Well, it is real. We are seeing this split happen now, you know. We're seeing it.
I mean, if you think of it, if you come to a crossroad and it splits like a Y, if you go down one path a little bit, it's not so hard to backtrack and go to the other path if you decide the path you're on isn't the one for you. But as you progress along that path, there's a greater chance if you try to cut over to the other one that you're going to get lost. You're not going to find your way, and that the terrain is going to be much different. And that's where we are, and that's going to continue in that direction. I mean, there's going to be some other thing that comes up probably in the next year that's, again, going to polarize people into camps. There's a biological difference now between, you know, different segments of the human population. What's next? You know, is it going to be chip in the brain? Is it going to be hook, you know, digital IDs? I don't know that stuff. I know there's a bunch of things that, you know, are intended to be implemented. I don't know exactly what's coming next, but I just know that there's going to be yet another thing, unfortunately, that will be tried to be implemented, and that we just have to keep sticking. You know, it's not a very hard path. It's a simple path. It's challenging, though, in always coming back to oneself and dealing with the anxiety, and especially for sensitive people who feel what's going on around them. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, you know, like a lot of the time it's a very lonely time for people as well, you know. I mean, there's lots of families that have been disconnected, and, you know, lots of like relationships have ended and stuff, because it's become such a divisive world that we live in now, you know, again, by design. And so I think it's very important for people to remember that they're actually, we're never really truly alone, you know, in the real sense. We're not, you know, we might be physically distance from people, but that is our potential, and our ability makes all that space absolutely inconsequential when it comes to what's really going on, you know.
The two, you know, I've talked to a lot of people. I've done some research lately, you know, some surveys, really trying to figure out where people are at. The two things that come up, stand apart from everything else, besides money issues, besides anything, are anxiety about the future and isolation.
Yeah.
You know, and we all know that we're the limbic system, the mammal part of us, needs community, needs touch, you know, needs to see other people smile. We need to make people feel special.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if we can't find people that are on the same wavelength of us, we try to make people that, you know, are just around us feel special. Yeah. And when we're presented with more and more subjects that polarize, it becomes increasingly difficult to remain around those people. But the good news is that now there's so many communities forming online that are then taking things into the physical and materializing things physically, so that people can find someone somewhere else that just is on their page, and the doors are open. You know, as long as people treat other people with respect. Sometimes we get people that are, you know, aware, and they still got these narcissistic patterns running, and that's not cool.
No. But I feel that, you know, this is one of the things that sometimes, like, you know, from doing these videos I do and these channels and stuff, and, you know, they became more popular than I could have ever imagined. I mean, I still laugh to my missus all the time. I say, I still don't know why anyone wants to fucking listen to me, you know, like, I still think it's hilarious, you know. But now I feel like I'm actually, the feedback that I get is that, like, people they're in need to feel some kind of positivity, to feel like we said before we got on live, we were saying that, you know, that it's an incredible thing to sit and laugh about all this shit, you know. And then like we feel like we're almost sort of like the, you know, like we're the cool edgy kids in school. We're all sitting around like laughing at this fucking shit show, and it becomes bearable then, you know, because that's what we are really. We're the ones sort of like who get it, who are not really, we don't fit into that anymore. So we're all together now, you know. So whether you're sitting on your own watching this now, you're not on your own. We're all together. We're all one big family now. We're all one big family of people who get it, you know. And I don't want to say truthers and all that other, you know, those labels, but we just get it, These people get it.
Yeah, it's not about what people believe on an ideological level, right? It's where people show up.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I mean, look at look at the truckers in Canada. I mean, those guys eat gas station hoagies and nachos and stuff like that, and you know, many of them, use pharmaceutical drugs all the time to kind of keep up with that trucker living. But when they got that bodily impression to drive 5,000 kilometers across the country and park themselves in front of the prime minister's office, they did it.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't know really. You know, we think, a lot of the time people who are talking about this stuff might not be doing it. You know, they just talk about it. And, they some people have, an influencer life and, they present the lifestyle of, natural living or whatever it may be, but they don't live it. Because they know other people will FOMO into that and they'll get more likes and views and all that. And it's actually reinforcing the old system. Whereas sometimes, you just have that uncle who's hard as nails, drinks the thing of whiskey, eats a box of lasagna every night. And, all of a sudden he wakes up one day and he's all, like, screw that. I'm not listening. I'm not buying into this shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is that there is no criteria, is it? It's like at the end of the day, it's just something that you feel inside yourself. It's sort of like, I've had enough of this. I'm not living. I mean, I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not perfect. I've got all my crosses to bear still, but there's something in me that will not back down from this. It will not back down. And that's what I'm talking about when I say to people who get it, is that it doesn't matter what you do, whatever they do to us, I am never, ever giving in. I don't give a fuck what you do. And there's people out there who feel that and generate that same energy. And that's the stuff that's going to pull us through this shit.
Absolutely.
That's going to get us through this. It doesn't matter if you're fucking sitting there with your prayer mat every day and I'm in and fucking you think you're a spiritual enlightened being. I don't feel like that at all. I just feel like I'm a real normal geezer who's had enough of this shit.
Yeah. And, I want to say this because I often go on tangents about spirituality. I'm very spiritual, I consider myself. But I do see a lot of a tendency, especially over the last few years, there's a bypassing of what's going on and people escape into spirituality as a way of trying to say, well, we're going to ascend, we're going to transcend what's happening in the world mechanism. Right now. Yeah, it's a defense mechanism. It's an escape mechanism to not deal with this. But, when spirituality is embodied, when you bring that in, when you say, I am connected with life, I'm connected with that infinite potential out there, let's do something. Let's beat my chest. Oh, here's the video again. One more time. You guys got to see this.
I am man.
There you go. You just throw it out there. You're just standing on the rock.
That's spiritual.
Exactly.
That's real spirituality. And this is the thing, is that, again, spirituality's been hijacked. Spirituality is fucking vibrant, full of fucking power and fire and ignition,
Yeah, we don't have time to go down that rabbit hole, but the new age, there's an expression, it's the last cul-de-sac before the gold mine. Because it points at the nature of reality, but it kind of moves people into this inaction. Or this other action that, they never really get it together. They never really embody. And, everything sounds kind of right, but it doesn't really work out in the end. And it keeps people on the treadmill. It keeps people addicted to more books, more courses, more workshops, more chakras. Yeah, mind. Exactly. All in the head.
I mean, you think of like I done a chat about it. It was called the Great Brain Robbery a couple of months ago. And one of the things that I spoke about in it, was one of the parts of it, was about how spirituality is one of the things that, like, to get to the so-called no mind, you have to go through the mind. So that's paradoxical straight away. That's completely incorrect. You can't go through something to get away from it.
Yeah, it's like asking the mob to audit itself. It's not going to get an accurate representation there.
Yeah, exactly. It's turning this off and to coming back into your heart, and then realizing once your heart is then, it becomes sort of like it's your what I would say is your core, and then it starts to work in tangent with the tandem. Sorry, with the mind. And then you realize that the mind isn't the enemy. It's incredible. It's a credible piece of kit that we can use to our benefit all the time. But it just needs to know.
An unmanaged mind is a problem, but a mind that's a clear crystal and can basically execute and strategize based on the heart and based on those wicked bodily signals wherever it rests in your body. I mean, not everyone resonates with the heart. Some people are solar plexus, some people are pretty, like, you know, guttural or sacral. Right?
It's true.
You see those people that move from below the hips, right? And you just know them, right? They're always dancing ecstatic dance. They're always, you know, they're cool. I mean, that's cool. They're just being themselves.
Yeah. But you put that in perfectly. That's exactly it. You know, is that the mind is a very, very effective tool if where we can turn off that you know, that, like Jacqueline calls it, like the slave technology. And I never really understood that before, you know, until I started listening to some of that stuff. And it's like you realize it is an actual physical piece of infrastructure that is beaming into your fucking head all the time to tell you a story. Then it becomes something you can actually laugh at and go, all right, it's you cunts again, is it? All right, I'm gonna go back to planting some fucking carrots. Because it's something we can actually then we can become the observer for. And again, that's lending some of the spiritual jargon, but we do have to a certain degree. We have to realize that is sometimes not us, you know, that's sometimes the mechanism, the function of that, of whatever that is, the technology that's coming through these things and coming from out there, you know. And it can become more and more difficult to turn off as we get further and further into this into this circus.
But I mean, the beautiful thing, and you know, I'm just going to bring this back to the whole theme. When you really embody I am, it's like none of that shit can touch the sides of you.
No.
You know, you just are yourself in whatever weird way that is. I mean, I'm not the prototype of anything except for what feels right to me.
Yeah.
Likewise for you, you know, you are authentically, inexcusably Danny. Right? And that's beautiful. And then because of that, we can just chat and have a grand old time, and people can show up here on the chat and send us a lot of love, and it all makes sense in some strange way. Because, you know, we get it when we're just unapologetically ourselves. And, you know, I have to say too, it's important for people to have transitional ethics wherever they are in life. I mean, don't think that they need to basically quit their job, tell their employer to stuff it, you know, distance themselves from their family tomorrow and go running off into the wild. I mean, one step at a time. What's one area of your life where you can reclaim your power again? You can start doing that incrementally. You know, there's that beautiful thing, the 1% rule, or the marginal gains. You make one consciously, you say 1% better today. I'm going to do 1% more in that direction. And it ends up creating massive momentum over time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's exactly what you just said, Dave. It's like it's not something we can't be looking at it like Everest. You know, it's the first step onto the ascension onto Everest. The climbers don't just go ping right to the top, do they? It's a gentle climb all the way. And I think that's the thing, is that people just see it as like, oh my God, how am I gonna go and live off grid? Now am I gonna be self-sustainable? But they're seeing it in such a big picture. It's daily little tasks, daily little things that take your power back, whatever that may be. You know, and there's so many different ways that we can do that now. You know, we don't have to, and like that is one of the big things, is to be. We can't box ourselves into sort of like, oh, I'm Danny, I'm spiritual, or I'm Danny and I'm a truther, or I'm Danny and I'm awake, and all these things. It's just another way of creating this boundary system around ourselves, which it doesn't allow that flow. The flow is that you can be all of these people at once, and all of these identities, whenever they just come through into this truthful source is flooding through you, just explodes out of you into this fucking, into whatever that feels right at that moment. You know, it doesn't have to be considered, it doesn't have to be planned, it just is.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes get caught in trying to, like, again, we get caught up in picking an identity for ourselves, and that identity should always be whatever feels right at that given moment.
Identity has to remain fluid, right? Because
it does,
you know, there's a beautiful thing I read, in that every single second we're experiencing 2 billion bits of information hitting us. And I'm not talking about just technology. I'm just talking about the world around us, the frequencies of the world. The mind, though, can only perceive 2,000. And in fact, they've shown that our repertoire is about 40,000 data points. So it only really bounces around in this limited range. But if we expand that range, we don't get the ability to look at more things at once, but we have the ability to be more fluid and respond to what's needed in the moment because we can access a larger repertoire of reality that's happening around us.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like you're sort of becoming more precise, as to what is actually what you need to pick up, as opposed to all that stuff that he's just bombarding you, which is a lot of the time irrelevant.
Totally. And not just precise, but also more adaptable and versatile. I mean, you get there's this, meme of, the tourist that comes from North America and they come over to Europe, and where do they stay? Well, they find the best Western hotel in Berlin, the best Western hotel in Rome, the best Western in Paris, and they eat at McDonald's or, whatever restaurant they recognize from back home. And then they ask them how Europe was when they go back. And they say, well, it's pretty much like anywhere else. I mean, they have the best Western McDonald's. Right? And that's kind of the way that the mind operates when it's unmanaged and it's boxed in and it's limited, is it just chooses that same repertoire. But if we go to Europe and we say, well, I'm going to go and sleep in the hostels in Berlin, and I'm going to go and camp out in the catacombs underneath. Well, I don't know if you want to do that, but, go sleep in some caves in Italy and,
steady on.
really immerse yourself in the culture. You'll have a completely different experience. You'll actually get the sense and the pulse of those various cultures.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it comes back to what we were saying earlier, is that we are all, for some reason now, we're predetermined to try and find the most comfortable outcome because it feels safe. And that's part of what we've been sold, isn't it? Is that we need to be safe, that the world is a threat, the world is suspicious, people, I don't trust them all, no, there's this and there's that. When actually, really, the majority of people out there on this planet, and people might find this hard to believe, but they're good people.
Yeah,
they're good people. The majority of the human race is good. And I don't like the word good, but they've got love in them. They've got a lot of love and kindness in them.
And it's just our jobs to stretch them a little bit, to open up those parts that are closed off and maybe see that little bit. I'm serious here. It's fun. Yeah, no, when you have those moments.
I was just thinking about one of me trying in my controversial way of articulating myself, trying to get people to open up.
Yeah, I was going for a slight stretch. Now I just gape them wide open. So open-minded that their brains leaked out of their ears.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you mean, though, and it is. It does feel like sometimes a reason for us to exist at this time, is because we have got an audience. We have got an ability to reach people. Why not use that for such a positive thing? To remind people of their power and of their ability and their potential. And to know that you really, really, you don't need anyone, including me and Dave, anyone in this fucking world, this universe, to tell you anything. You've got it all. All the answers remain inside yourself. You just got to tune into that incredible vehicle that we've all got that is signaling all the time to tell us everything we need to know.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing really to say after that, except join our Telegram groups, of course. You don't need us, but we'd really like it. Join the discussion.
I've got some new hats and some new merchandise and some hoodies coming out soon. They're very nice.
Danny, this has been an amazing, amazing chat with you. I'm just filled up with so much fun and excitement right now. Where can people that might come from, my audience and not know you, where can they find out more about you and what you do and some of these off-the-cusp controversial chats that you do?
Probably in a very local state prison, I would imagine, very soon. No, until that time, you can find me on, I've got my own website. It's deardanny.co. There you go. It's just come up on the screen. It's just, see, that's technology for you.
Yeah. You just say it and it's there. It's reading there. Your thoughts.
And I've got a Telegram channel. It's called Dear Danny as well. And also an Instagram, Dear Danny11. And you can find me and you can laugh with me at all the absurdity that's going on in the world. And try not to take it all too seriously, because at the end of the day, it's all a big fucking laugh.
Yeah, so that's the saying that I live by. It's all one cosmic joke, right? At the end of the day.
It is, mate. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And what's happening with Octave Leap this week? Well, we've got 2 amazing events coming up. We have got Harmonic Harvest. Vanessa and I will be doing a soundscape journey for the equinox on Friday. You just come, you just lie down, and you get the sweet, sweet frequencies of abundance, of really tapping into that wholeness. You know, we really go to create
lovely.
a frequency bath. It's by donation. You just come and you lie down, you put some headphones on, and all of a sudden you really get a bodily sensation of it. That's part of the positive use of technology is, you know, really being able to harvest what we know with sound and, you know, not Muzak, which puts you in a semi-ambulitic state that, you know, you go and you buy shit, but this is actually restoring the body and actually reharmonizing us. The other thing we got going on Saturday, Alex is giving expressing our innate creativity for work and play workshop. So anybody who wants to add more creativity to their lives, Alex is doing a sliding scale contribution workshop. You can find the link below. I would highly recommend it. Alex is the man when it comes to this stuff. And, you know, you just get more life, more laughter, and more enjoyment out of things. You know, sovereignty, like we showed today, isn't about this sort of righteousness and this seriousness. It's about fun. It's about play. It's just about being more of ourselves. Thank you all for joining us. This has been one heck of a journey. Definitely haven't laughed this much in a live stream the whole time I've done this. So thank you. Take care. And I will see everybody again next week.
Thank you very much.
This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.